Ladies and gentlemen, we have an amazing guest today, Dr. Eva Jacobi. She's a doctor of naturopathic medicine. She posts so much content about hormones and all the food and supplements that we need to take. And I've been accumulating my questions and so excited to ask today. So grab your journals and your pencils and let's get to work. Welcome.
Hello, hello.
Thank you so much for taking time today to discuss, the overall well-being of everyone and how we can improve our immune system. How can we strengthen it? How can we just stay grounded emotionally? Because so much is going on. Year 2020 has been pretty intense. It's been an emotional roller coaster for me, and I've been constantly looking for ways to ground myself, to stay clear, reduce anxiety levels, and that's exactly what you've been talking a lot about lately. So I'd love for you to share. What do you think is the most important right now in terms of staying grounded, staying balanced?
Yeah, anxiety, stress, panic. It's such a huge conversation right now. And some of the main tools that I like to use are one, simple as your breath, right? You don't need to go anywhere. You just stay right here with yourself and breathe. And one of the reasons why it's such a powerful tool is that it's one of the conscious ways we can literally bridge a gap between the sympathetic system and the parasympathetic system, right? Where sympathetic is your like fight or flight, you're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger, get out of here, run. Versus parasympathetic is your rest and digest, your chill kind of side of your nervous system. And part of what, because of like the stress going on in the world, or even just modern society where it's like go go go, we tend to get stuck in this sympathetic system of high anxiety and high just pushing. So one of the greatest tools is simply our breath, right? To bridge, consciously bridge that gap, or and quiet our nervous systems and quiet our mind. Because it's that saying of if you're experiencing anxiety, you're living in the future. If you're experiencing depression, you're living in the past. And one of the greatest tools to bring us to the present is our breath. And and
I'm sitting here like so excited because I had no idea what you would start with. I mean, I would think, I thought maybe like you would mention some food or some supplements, right? And you said breath, and I did half an hour breath work right before our call. Like I literally was laying down and I was doing ecstatic breath work. And then also, like, one of my resolutions this year is I started doing a Wim Hof. And so I downloaded the app and I do like breath work with Wim Hof every single morning. So it's like amazing that you
that's awesome.
breath work.
Yeah, so breath work. I talk to all of my clients, everybody I work with is there is breath work involved. Because again, it's like you don't have to go anywhere, but just be with yourself, right? And it's extremely powerful tool. And then on the topic of food or supplements and whatnot, especially now in winter seasons. In I know I'm in Miami and you're in Russia. We're in very different locations, but even so, it's still winter. And you want to be feeding yourself really grounding food, and that means like a lot of root vegetables. And depending on your dietary preferences, if vegetarian or not, or if you eat meat, reality is if you're vegetarian, you want to make sure you're getting those grounding root vegetables, like your squashes and your pumpkins and your really hearty
Mhm.
squash like vegetables. But then also another really grounding type of food is meat. So I was actually pescatarian for 7 years, and I have reverted back to eating meat, partly because during the times of stress and anxiety, meat is a very, very grounding food.
Wow. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny how our system works on such a subtle subconscious levels. Like being here right now in Sochi, it's been pretty stressful time for me, and I've been eating a lot of meat but subconsciously, like I wasn't unconsciously, like I wasn't really making the choice, like, oh, let me have more meat. I was just kind of, it just happened. And then a couple days ago, I was thinking back and like realizing I'm eating so much meat here. And now that you're saying this, it's like sometimes our body just makes the decision for us.
Yeah.
Wow, it really helps.
Bodies know, our bodies are intuitive. We just have to be open to listening, really.
Mhm. Maybe it's because I've been doing so much breath work, I'm connected with my body and it's telling me, go eat some meat.
There you go. But
So,
I know, like,
can we real quick, just to go back to breathwork to finish up, like maybe a few simple advices that you could recommend in terms of like what people can do? Because mine is, I mean, I would say my teacher Scott Schwenk, like check him out because he has a very interesting process of ecstatic breath work. It's not something I
mhm.
could possibly explain. Wim Hof has his own method, very different, but both of those teachers are amazing. So I would recommend just going, to their websites and checking it out. But something maybe that you recommend to clients, something that people can do in the mornings or before bed.
Yeah, a couple of different ways. Also very simple. One is a very simple box breath, like in for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. Just as even a place to get started. And then another way is inhale for 3 and then exhale for 7. And then as you're exhaling for 7 is kind of replacing the thoughts that like the negative thought, right, with a positive thought. So in for 3, you're kind of inhaling and acknowledging what's bothering you, and exhaling and replacing that with a positive, or the polarity of it, essentially.
Love it. Nice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Okay. And then
Yeah.
in terms of food, like we discussed a few of the, grounding foods, and what else do you think could be missing in our system, that kind of gives us a lot of anxiety and stress? How could we, I know both you and I, we like supplements. I have my little bag right here, Elaine, that I'm using every day because it's just difficult to get everything from food unless you're making smoothies every day and you're cooking your own food. I'm living in a hotel right now, so I have very limited choice of what I could eat. So supplements is my go-to. So maybe if you could mention some of the main things that we should be taking on daily basis.
Yeah, I mean, especially for mood, things like fish oil is a huge, huge piece, because it's it's anti-inflammatory, but it's feeding your brain. And fish oil is one of those things that it can go through the blood-brain barrier and just like create these fluid cells. And that's what you really want. So doing fish oil, I basically put everybody on fish oil because it's such a powerful tool for brain health and as an anti-inflammatory. And then especially for brain, you're looking at the DHA aspect versus the EPA. But fish oil is like a go-to 100%. Other things are oftentimes amino acids. It's another reason why meat is effective or helpful. But even if it doesn't come from there, but amino acids like glycine and taurine are really calming and relaxing to the system and to your brain and nervous system. And phosphatidylserine is another like brain food. All that calm the nervous system. Phosphatidylserine helps with cortisol levels. So a lot of it is also your stress spiking, and then is your cortisol spiking, and then it perpetuates from there. Those are some really good tools. As far as supplements, then always adaptogenic herbs. That I love. Adaptogens are some of my favorite herbs out there because they're literally help you adapt to stressful situations. And so, whether you're looking at mushrooms like reishi and chaga and whatnot, which are also good for the immune system, or you're looking at things like rhodiola and ashwagandha and just, yeah, and holy basil, things like the supplement herbs like those.
Nice. Wow. Yeah, that's. I think I'm gonna need to go to the store again and get myself another cycle, different supplements. I've been taking. There's like a mix of magnesium and vitamin B6. It kind of like goes together. So I've been taking that, and then L-theanine. It's just like you have to find something that works for you, right? It's like uh, and it's most of them you can mix it together, right? But sometimes like it doesn't, like I feel like it caps at a certain point. Like, if you take like 10 or 30 different pills, like it's not gonna, you're not gonna become a superhuman. Like at some point it's gonna cancel each other out. It's gonna come out with a
Yeah,
peak.
yeah,
Just figure out your
yeah,
perfect formula and stick to that.
yeah. Well, you said magnesium and what was the
B6.
other one? B6. Those are huge, like especially magnesium. What a lot of people don't know is that there's different forms of magnesium. So magnesium is involved in like over 300 biochemical reactions, right? But there's different types, and one of the best types for anxiety is magnesium glycinate, because it works specifically on the nervous system, whereas something like magnesium malate is great for your muscles. So it's going a little bit deeper, but
I like that. It's a very important point, because like I go and say, hey, give me all the magnesium you have, but it's now I know which ones not to get.
Yeah, there's different ones. So I would highly recommend the magnesium glycinate if you're really looking at something on stress and like anxiety and whatnot. And then B6 is amazing for mood. So you're right on it.
Talking about mood, there's a deeper component to all of this, right? Like our hormones, and this is something like it's a whole new world of how this functions and how it's all connected. And sometimes, it's important to understand where these mood swings are coming from, where this anxiety and stress and depression. Personally, I've struggled with those for many years. And so I've been constantly paying attention to hormones. When you look at hormones, what would you say like the basics? Like, what is it that we need to make sure we have in check?
As far as having checked, I mean, hormones, I agree with you 100% with what you're saying. And hormones is because it's like the ultimate communication system of in our bodies. And so, we have to look at not just all the different types of hormones, right? You're looking at your sex hormones. So your estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, DHEA. We're looking at your thyroid hormones, TSH, and this is actually, thyroid is an area, well, all these areas, but thyroid specifically, a lot of practitioners don't look at a full enough spectrum, right? So where someone will go to the doctor and they'll have maybe T3 and T4 checked, but they're not having free T3, free T4, reverse T3, TSH, and like the antibodies, right? So all of a sudden, like we chatted about this before, that someone goes to the doctor and they don't feel right, but they're told based on their labs, everything is fine. And it's because there's another level to go deeper, to look deeper. So so I mentioned the sex hormones, like your estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, DHEA. Then we're looking at thyroid. So that's your T3, T4, free T3, free T4, reverse T3. Yeah, it's much bigger than what's generally run. But then we're also looking at things like hunger hormones, and those are not always run, but hunger hormones are so connected to mood because it's also connected to your blood sugar levels. So if you're constantly having spikes in your blood sugar, then your mood is all over the place. There is no stability. So I mean, that brings in hormones like leptin and ghrelin and insulin, and insulin is a big one for blood sugar stability, which we know from diabetes. But yeah, there's a lot going on, and there's a lot more hormones as well.
So where do we start? How to start this process, right? Because I feel like every time I speak to an expert in their field, right? It's like it's a whole new world, and there's so much, right? And there's so many fields too. But eventually, you have to figure out what, like what matters to you. Something that, like you start digging, and all of a sudden there's water. You're like, okay, I'm gonna start digging deeper, and then you go very deep. Like I used to
Yeah.
be famous for one of my teachers, Scott. He used to call me a well digger. He said, Stas, you're an extraordinary well digger. You dig all these wells, you're so good at this stuff, but none of them have water. And this is like, I feel like it's the trend these days, right? There's so many different teachers, there's so many different experts and different methodics. I mean, so much going on. And a lot of this stuff is free now because it's a crazy year, so everybody's offering stuff for free, right? So there's so much that we could do, so many different directions we could look at, but you have to figure out what works for you, and let's say go the hormone path and check that stuff. If everything in order, then maybe leave it aside and go somewhere else. But explore it, because this opens up a whole new world. So if we were to start, right, like what would be the things that, what kind of doctor we should go to, what kind of things we should ask for?
Mhm. Yeah, so to start, I mean, if you want to go deeper, if you want a real full picture, someone like myself, a naturopathic doctor, a functional medicine practitioner, is really the way to go, because the reality is we look at labs entirely different. We look at the body and the human being entirely different. So yeah, someone like myself, a naturopathic doctor, trained um, to on a my position is my body soul, right? And where we're going to take a look at the labs, like I mentioned, these larger panels for thyroid health, for hormone health, sex hormone health, right? And get a basic reading, where also you're getting a CBC and a CMP, like your basic blood work, but again with a few more markers, namely one, vitamin D, which we know has been in the news all the time. And there's truth. You want your vitamin D levels checked because it's immune modulating. You need it for mood. You need it for just overall optimal health. So you're looking at your basic labs with a vitamin D, your thyroid panel, your sex hormone panel. But beyond that, one way beyond the labs that I help people kind of navigate their hormones is just their individual biofeedback. So what does that mean? That means you can tell what your hormone status by tracking your energy, by tracking your cravings, and by tracking your hunger levels, and then your sleep and your mood, if you want to throw in the other ones, right? Because once you can balance those out, then your hormones kind of regulate. Mm-hmm. So, and I use a hierarchy coming from first with all the lifestyle factors, nutrition, movement, sleep, sex and intimacy, relationships. Then I'll bring in the botanicals and the herbs and the supplements. And then, if we have to go one deeper to conventional meds, then you go there. But there's so many levels before we get there.
You basically listed the chapters of my book. Book, it's like I'm writing about happiness, and it's like you have to have these chapters covered: relationships, mental health, physical health. Like it's all holistic, and if like it's about having harmony between all of them. And if one of them, if all of them are at the average level, you can do pretty well. But if one of them is like really bad, it's going to drag everything in its direction. So it's important to understand, like if you're, I don't know, if you're doing great at work, but your relationships are terrible, it's going to suck all the energy out of you. And no matter how much L-theanine and magnesium you take every day, it's not really going to do much, right? So it really is important to look at all of this together. And again, like there's always room for improvement, but if you can just kind of raise the bar a little bit in each of those areas, then overall mood and outlook on life, it's going to be better.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So
you're a naturopathic doctor because you're all about mind and body and soul.
Yeah 100%. 100%. And we're complete beings, right? And we can't negate one area. It's basically what you just said. We can't negate one area and expect to thrive in general. So,
Do you have, I'm always curious about this stuff, like what made you want to become a naturopathic doctor? Was there like a
uh,
story, something that triggered this, or were you just passionate and you wanted to go that route?
well, it's actually funny because I planned on going to conventional medicine coming out of my undergrad. I chose not to go. And then I kind of did this very long, winding journey, ended up in Southeast Asia, still trying to figure out what I was doing with my life 10 years later. And I happened to just be Googling on my phone and I found naturopathic medicine. And so I was like, and I saw the 6 principles and I was like, this is what medicine is, right? Because conventional medicine, it just, it didn't align with me. And then I found this naturopathic medicine and the principles, and I started to read about it. I was like, wow, this is medicine. This is like true healing. And I was literally sitting in Thailand in like an ancient city in Thailand. I discovered it, and then I didn't even have a computer, and I just started to apply on my phone for schools. That being said, I had no idea what I was getting into. I'm one of the rare ones that had never seen a naturopathic doctor, I never went to one. I had no idea what the experience was. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I just knew that this is what I was supposed to do.
So if anybody out there looking for their purpose, for their calling, go to Thailand or Bali and then figure it out from there.
Yep. Always the way to go.
Conversation today, then get this. Go to Southeast Asia.
Yeah, well, that's where we met, right? We met in Bali about a year ago.
So. Wow, amazing. Dr. Eva Jacoby, thank you so much for your time. I really like how you made this simple, how this is very practical, very clear of what to do, where to start. How can people reach out to you? How can they connect with you? I'm sure people will have some questions that they would like to ask further.
Yeah, so I have my website, it's drevajacoby.com, or Instagram, same thing, Dr. Eva Jacoby, or Facebook, Eva Jacoby. So any of those channels, you can reach out to me, or even if you want to just straight shoot me an email, you can just email me at info@drevajacoby.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much, and we'll talk soon again.
All right, wonderful. Thank you for having me.